Welcome to Wildly Successful. I am your host, Petra Colson, a fellow business owner, a mum, and someone who has far too many ideas for my own good. On this podcast, we are diving deep into what it takes to build a business you truly love. One that brings not only financial success, but also the freedom to live a life that makes you genuinely happy. Join me as we explore topics such as business strategy, marketing, mindset, and everything between. You can expect actionable advice and real conversations with incredible business owners that will motivate you to take your business to the next level. So, if you're committed to building your wildly successful business, you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome back to Wildly Successful. Today, I want to talk about something that comes up quite a lot when I chat with other founders, and it's how to spend more time doing what you actually love in your business. Because most founders I know didn't start their business to spend their days sending invoices, replying to emails, or juggling admin. They started because they are visionaries, because they are problem solvers, they're big thinkers. And yes, in the beginning, wearing all the hats is often the reality. You are learning your business, you're figuring out what needs to be done, you're testing and tweaking, and you're doing whatever it takes to get it off the ground. But I believe that there comes a point where doing everything is no longer the most productive, the most profitable, or the most enjoyable way to run your business. You get stuck in the weeds and your day is filled with doing instead of thinking. And that white space that you need as a founder, it just disappears. And here's the thing, when you are strategic and creative and someone who thrives of solving problems, you need white space. You need space to think clearly, to connect the dots, to dream up what's next. But that doesn't happen when you are tied down to day-to-day tasks, when you are constantly busy. It happens when you step back, when you finally create a business that lets you focus on the things that actually lights you up. I wanted to share what this looks like for me now, not because it's perfect, but because I know how far I've come. And it's taken me over 4 years to shape this role so that I can focus on the areas where I add the most value to my business. Here is what I still personally focus on. I create content, but I have a collaborator that handles the editing, the researching, the scheduling, anything that is time consuming that I don't have to do. My time is often spent in idea generation, in scripting those original content pieces, and in recording, whether that's audio or video. I also look after our sales. So I speak to potential clients, I send proposals, and I follow up. Most of this process is automated or templated because I want to avoid reinventing the wheel every single time I speak to a potential client. I also manage the high-level operations. So I still do things such as payroll, I do annual performance reviews, I do interviews when we're hiring, I do certain team meetings, I do onboarding and strategy with new clients. And this is because this is where my genius zone is. This is where I find my joy. I love building relationship with clients. I love understanding their business and creating strategy that works. But then my team handles the delivery side of things and the ongoing communication because that's what they are amazing at. I also focus on continuous improvements because, again, I find so much joy in problem solving. I really love refining our funnels and exploring new ideas and making sure that we are keeping ahead of trends and understanding new development of AI and these sort of things. So I'm 100% still working, but I am doing the work I want to be doing. I do the work that makes the biggest difference to my business, the work that energizes me, and the work that makes me wake up every day and be excited about going to work. I just want to be clear here. This did not happen overnight. It didn't happen because I magically hit some revenue milestone and I was like, now I can afford to do all these things. It happened because I got so intentional. I built really solid systems and I learned how to let go. And that was really uncomfortable. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, that's easy for you to say because blah, 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 blah. Trust me, I used to think that too. Our brains are very interesting. It will come up with all sorts of stories to keep us safe and keep us small. And no, not because it wants us to stay small, but because it rather stays in a position where it feels slightly uncomfortable than to take a risk that feels really unsafe. So, if you are looking at all these things that I will be talking about, such as outsourcing or letting go of certain parts of your business and not being a perfectionist or a control freak, then your brain may look at those things as very much unsafe. And because that feels unsafe or unknown, your brain will come up with stories to keep you safe, to keep you where you're at. And you might be saying things like, only I can do this. My clients expect me to be the one showing up. Or what if I hand it over to someone else and they can't do it as well as me? But again, this is your brain that is keeping you in that rather feeling safe and stuck than taking a step towards something that feels unfamiliar, even if that step could change everything for you. So I wanted to walk you through the shifts that I had to make to get to this place. Firstly, audit everything you do. List it all, big and small, every single task. Then highlight what it is that you truly love. What are the things that moves the needle and what is it that drains you? This is such an important first step because you're bringing awareness and clarity to what is currently happening. The second step is about getting really honest about what actually matters, because just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you should keep doing it. You need to focus on what brings you joy and what gets you closer to your vision, even if those things feels a bit scary or unfamiliar. The third one is building out simple systems. You don't need something super fancy, but you do need to capture your processes clearly enough so that someone else can follow it using things like Loom, saving it into a Google document or your project management tool so that you can hand it over to someone else and they clearly know how to complete the task to your expectations. The next step is bringing in the right support. If you're just starting out and you don't have a team yet, I would recommend starting with your admin and your bookkeeping, and from there move into support around your content and then support around client delivery. Eventually, you can build support into your sales or your operation, leadership, and so on. Number 5 is getting really good at giving feedback. It's about helping your team learn what you like, what you need, and how to deliver that. And the more feedback you are giving to them, you will notice over time the less feedback you will have to give. And as soon as I started looking at feedback as regardless of what task I'm handing away, the quality of that output is based on the level of feedback that I can give someone. Okay, so number 6 is letting go of your ego and the fear. And this one is probably the hardest one. It is that voice in your head telling you that only you can do the work or only you can do a specific task. And it is lying. You need to let go of the tasks that no longer serve you or your business. even if it's things that you have been holding on for years. I had to do so much work around this, and it's been one of the hardest parts, especially as someone who already has an existing team, and I kept holding on to things that I shouldn't hold on to. Massive shout out to my mentor, Anthony, for helping me move through that. And the final thing is getting comfortable with investing. So as I mentioned at the start, it wasn't me getting to a particular revenue milestone or thinking, oh, when I make more money, then I'm going to outsource. Because to get to this place, you need support. And that might mean investing upfront to make sure that you can create that space for yourself so that you can be where you need to be in your business, and over time create a more profitable, more joyful work situation for yourself, because you're finally working on the things that are actually growing and driving your business forward. As a final reminder, you don't need to be doing everything in your business. You don't need to burn out to prove that you care. You don't need to hold on just because you always have. You are allowed to want more time for creativity. You are allowed to want more space. You are allowed to love the business that you have built. And you don't need a permission slip to do what I've done. You just need to follow the plan. Audit your time, build the systems, let go, invest in support, and just watch what happens when you start doing more of what you love. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Until next time, have a beautiful week.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.